do nothing. Your families are in jeopardy right now. You didn't hear them people say they got 13 communities in 11 states? They know exactly where y'all at. And guess what they're going to do? They're going to come in and they're going to look for Bryson when you don't turn them over. Because you got people like King Dowell who don't care nothing about you people. He's showing it in his actions. He can't control his mouth. He talks way too much. He's literally told the government everything they need to know about this situation. But since he is haughty in spirit and prideful, you're finna see the destruction and you finna see the fall. You finna see the tornado. He's not gonna repent, but he calls me reprobate. Now, I guarantee, y'all, I promise you I will. I'll come get you. I'll be right there. I ain't got to violate them. I don't have to come nowhere on their property. You come on out, bring your stuff, and we gone. We gone. Let them have it all. Y'all got something greater for you. I guarantee. I guarantee. Moth gonna take care of it anyway. He need to be buried with all this stuff. He need to be buried with it. He gonna get out here and act like he. Randy, go ask Dowell.
Yes. We're live. We're live. Welcome to Checkmate. Yes. We have a new updated name. It's not totally different. It's just updated because I'm your checkmate. We're here to just checkmate. It's good to see you. Good to see you. And Marie and Johnny and everybody else watching, consider yourselves lucky. Consider yourselves lucky that you were made aware of this stream. Hello, Harlot. That you were made aware of this stream because, as you may or may not know, I am 99% sure that I have been shadow banned by YouTube. And when I found that out and figured that out, and that means, and I'm pretty sure that's shadow banned on both channels, this channel and Disorder in the Court. When I figured that out, it really did cause me to kind of step back and try to figure out, what is my participation level going to be on YouTube? Because I really, really do like interacting with you all on YouTube. I do like interacting with you all on YouTube. Hey, Sparkles. But should I be putting my time and energy into a platform that isn't going to promote me? Well, I've missed you too. So, I've decided, yes, I do want to put my time and energy into a platform that I if they're going to promote me, great. If they're not going to promote me, fine. As long I do have the love and devotion of the people that are in my chat right now. And honestly, that's all I need. That's really all I need. And if it gets out to further people above and beyond that, that is fine. I've never been here on YouTube. Hey, PKC. I've never been on here on YouTube for fame and fortune. I've always been here to get out a message. To get out a message, you do need to get more views and to gain more subscribers. But my primary purpose has been to get a message out. And my message is always going to involve the idea that YouTube and the system around the internet is corrosive and harmful. So unfortunately, since my message is always going to involve that, I'm always probably going to be shadow banned by those systems. So what are you going to do about that? Well, Um, especially when I feel connected to the people that I'm talking to. Well, I'm just going to have to live under that system. It is unfair, but hey, it's their system. I'm not going to sit here and whine and cry about it. I'm not a victim of it. It's unfair, but I'm not a victim of it. It's not personal. It's just business, right? Someday it'll change. Someday it'll change. Um, they know that they're being unfair. They know that they're being corrosive to society and the world. They know that. The lawmakers know that. Even my chat is well aware of it. So at this point, what do I do? Well, I come back here and just still talk about the things that I'm super interested in, that hopefully you're interested in as well. And one thing that I stopped being interested in as much is navel gazing. And what do I mean by navel gazing? Well, I spent a lot of time looking at people on, true crime creators on YouTube and what they were doing, and their, especially as one particular true crime creator on YouTube and what they were doing. And yes, what they are doing is specifically corrosive, but everyone knows that by now. And there is so much more going on in the world. There is so much more going on out there that, I basically took a break and stopped as much navel gazing as I was doing and tried to look outside a little bit more and tried to go beyond what I had been looking at, which, I will attribute some of that to the algorithm, because we kind of get stuck in the algorithm that we're served, right? So it kind of takes a little bit of welcome everybody coming in. Good to see you all. It takes a little bit of a will to get past what just the algorithm is serving you, right? So I search past the algorithm, right? However, the algorithm also does bring me things that I'm interested in. And so in this particular case that I'm bringing you today, that I think deserves a lot of attention, and I think the true crime community should pay a lot of attention to this. And there's an abundance of information and an abundance of content to go over for the true crime community to pour over and criticize and scrutinize. And there's a whole other community of people who are paying attention to this situation because it's actually outrageous. So what happened in this particular scenario is I started to see, because the true crime algorithm brought me information about this missing child. And I'm sure a lot of you saw it too. I'm going to show you this missing child, Bryson Muir, right? So he came up and he was missing. And by the time we found out about him, he had been missing for 2 weeks. Okay. His grandmother called in and said, he's been missing for 2 weeks. He came to my house and he had been beaten up. It was unclear at that point who had beat this child, but he's 14 years old. He's only 14 years old, this child. He's clearly been beaten to a pulp. And we learned through this news report that his father is a former Colts player, Indiana Colts player, named Daniel Muir. And I thought I uploaded the picture that I had on his thumbnail, but here, I'll upload it real quick here. His father is NFL player Bryson Muir. I'm sorry, Daniel Muir, who was on the Colts for several years, and he's involved somehow. Okay. And we find out that his parents were supposed to have turned him in to the police because this young man's grandmother called him in missing. And then there was some sort of arrangement made for this young man to be turned in to the police. The parents were supposed to meet with the police to turn over this child. And now things are starting to sound a little like Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell, because that was supposed to happen in their situation too. The children were missing. There was a grandmother who was concerned. She calls in. There's a meeting set up, and then the parents fail to turn over the child in that meeting. So there's obvious a great deal of concern for the child, and there's a big search for him. And then we find out through more reporting that the child is the child and this former NFL player are part of a cult. Yes, God bless the grandmother, Johnny, for sure. They're a part of this cult called the Straightway Truth Ministries. Okay. And the pastor of the cult, in the midst of all this, who has a YouTube channel, puts up a video on his YouTube channel, standing behind the Dowell, standing behind the Muirs, who have not yet turned over their child, who is looking like this. Okay? The child is missing. He's been beaten up. And this cult pastor is posting a YouTube video saying, we stand by the Muirs, the parents. Well, the other day, a couple days ago, this child was found, and it was after a police raid on the compound. Okay. And the parents were arrested. And that's Daniel Muir and the mother. And they were arrested for obstruction of justice. And so the mother was arrested for obstruction of justice. The father was arrested for, I believe, abuse and obstruction of justice. I may have the first charge wrong, but anyway, this took me down a major rabbit hole, because pretty much after the boy was found and found, quote unquote, safe, the things went off the radar, right? But I was thinking, wait a minute. There's so much more going on here. And there is a lot more. And it is very, it's very, very eerily and scarily similar to Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow. And I'm going to show you how. Okay. So first, let me show you some of the news clips that came out when he was first reported missing. So to give you the background on the story, because mine was a little broken up, but just to give you the background on the story, and then I'm going to start to show you some of the fucked up part of this cult and their beliefs, and how they have been getting called out on YouTube and by major outlets like Sports Illustrated for years and years and years, because there are 3 former very celebrated NFL players who are formidable parts of this cult. Okay. So here's one of the first news reports. Forgot to share the screen. Sorry.
2 states. He was last seen here in Northeast Ohio 2 weeks ago. But investigators in Indiana are very concerned for his safety. Vic Gideon now with the latest.
Oh, please, I forgot to remind you, please remember to hit the like button. Please remember to interact with my channel. It's honestly the only way that the algorithm will know that I exist since I am shadow banned. Thank you very much.
This is missing 14-year-old Bryson Muir, last seen Sunday, June 16th in Garfield Heights.
911, what is your emergency?
I have my grandson who's badly abused by his parents. I mean, he's 14.
Okay.
He's being abused.
See, so thank you, and thank you for doing that, Johnny. Always reliable. So that's the grandmother. Her name is Cheryl Wright, and I want to thank this grandmother for doing the right thing, because this grandmother isn't part of the cult. She's outside of the cult, and she calls in and says, this boy has been badly beaten by his parents. So obviously the grandmother is the mother of one of those parents, and she's calling on one of her children, right? And thank God for, for grandparents. Thank God for grandparents.
We really started looking at this as an endangered missing person.
His grandmother took a picture of Bryson with a black eye, and when Bryson's mother came to pick him up, she called 911 after she said there was a confrontation between her and her daughter, Bryson's mother. Kristen then took off in a white 2015 Chevy Suburban from the grandmother's Garfield Heights home. Minutes later, Garfield Heights police pulled over Kristen in that Suburban, but no Bryson.
So that might have been a little bit difficult to follow there, but what happened was the mother of the child came to the grandmother's home and picked up the child, and minutes later she was pulled over by police and the child was not in the car. So obviously this mother, that was the obstructing justice part right there. They clearly were trying to keep hide the child and his bruises and his beating. Yeah, exactly. In this case, safe means alive. But that's the issue here. And that's why I went live about this. I actually had set up a live when he was still missing, saying, urgent, urgent, urgent. We need to get this word out, y'all. This kid is in danger. But now I'm doing this live because there are more women and children in danger at this place. And we're going to get into that. And I'm going to show you what I mean by that. But they've been in danger at this place for years. It's just that it's incidents like this that start to kind of raise it above the surface, that raise it out of the usual community that's been talking about it. Hello, Christine. Welcome. Thank you for joining. I'm glad you're new to my channel because I believe I've been shadow banned. So I don't know if my channel gets promoted out by YouTube. So thank you for letting me know. Anyway, let's keep rolling with this. So basically, the parents were actively avoiding the police. Now, what you will learn as we continue talking, as we continue following information about this cult, is that they are actively against, they actively thwart authority. They believe that they are an organization that's above God, above the rules of the law of the land. They consider themselves sovereign citizens. And this is a pattern of conduct that we see with these types of organizations. And they construct their organizations around religious beliefs, but those religious beliefs are never followed. They preach following the 10 commandments, but they don't follow those 10 commandments. This religious construct that they set themselves up under is just a means to an end. Yep, all gods and prophets. That's right, Johnny. It's just a means to an end. And, I was watching an interview with the special prosecutor that was brought in for the Lori Vallow case. Yeah, we don't promote other people's channels in here, Christine, but you may not know that. Maybe you're new here, but that's considered not a very polite thing to do, but that's okay. Anyway, so let's just keep watching. Oh yeah, I was watching Rachel Smith. She was the special prosecutor for Lori Vallow's case. And when she was asked about, how much did you consider the LDS Church and Lori and Chad's, dealings? And she said, honestly, I didn't want to focus too much on that because that is all just a means to an end. They were using all of that just as a way to get by with what they were doing. It is all just a means to an end. So that's exactly what these people are doing. And you're going to see that in more of what I show you.
In that period of time, Bryson wasn't to be found. We don't know where he went.
Bryson's father, Daniel Muir, played 7 seasons in the NFL as a defensive lineman, playing college football at Kent State University. He now appears to be a pastor at a religious group called Straightway Truth Ministry. The Muir family lives in Logansport, Indiana on this property, but the Indiana State Police have been unable to talk to anyone at the home during their search for Bryson.
He's our primary concern. His well-being and his safety is of utmost.
So that was when he was still missing. Here's another one with a little bit more information from when he was still missing.
Indiana's #1 news source. This is Fox 59, First at 4.
And we begin with breaking news first at 4 on the search for 14-year-old Bryson Muir of Logansport. A statewide silver alert has now been issued 12 days after.
Well, Johnny, they are openly anti-LGBT. That's probably one of the reasons that they named themselves that way. So it is the Southern Poverty Law Center has gone off and on and off, called them a hate group. So, but they currently are not considered a hate group, but they're openly anti-gay. So that's probably why they call themselves Straightway.
He was last seen in Ohio. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. I'm Jenny Drasler.
I'm Eric Graves. Nick and Aaliyah have the day off. I talked to police just more than an hour ago. They tell me Bryson's parents had agreed to bring him to the ISP post in Peru at noon today, but backed out just an hour before that.
Yeah, it's the case we've been following from the beginning. A lot to unpack, and we go to Fox 59's Michael Van Scoik joining us now in studio with the latest breaking details from State Police. Michael.
Well, Jenny and Eric, State Police say that decision not to bring the son to the post this afternoon is a signal the Muirs are unwilling to cooperate. Now, investigators have issued a silver alert and say Bryson is believed to be in extreme danger and may require medical assistance. Bryson was last seen on June 16th at his grandmother.
So Johnny, their faith is they consider themselves Hebrew Israelites. Okay. And I don't claim to know much of what that means, but what I've read says that the Hebrew Israelites they're like a softer version of the Hebrew Israelites. The true Jews, the chosen ones, the ones that, yes, the true Jews, but they also believe in, so they call God Yah, they call him Yah, and that's the true, they talk about truth a lot. That's why they call themselves the Straightway Truth Ministries. And, but this version, the Straightway Church, the Straightway Ministries believes in Jesus. Yeah, it's something like that. So
mother's house near Cleveland, Ohio. At the time, he had this black eye. She's the one who called police because she was worried he was being beaten. Bryson's father is a former Indianapolis Colt. Daniel Muir is a person of interest in the investigation. State police and the Cass County DCS got a hold of Bryson's parents yesterday, 11 days after the investigation started. Investigators also got onto the large property where they live. This video is from when we were there earlier this week. The property is owned by a group called Servant Leaders Foundation. It's a nonprofit.
So you hear that this property is owned by a group called the Servant Leaders Foundation, a nonprofit. Okay, what is the origin of that? Well, we find out that the Servant Leaders Foundation is a nonprofit organization run by this by Pastor Dowell, who runs the Straightway Truth Ministries. Okay, and what happens is, when people are recruited into Straightway Truth Ministries, they turn all of their property and possessions over to Pastor Dowell, and they begin to receive, and they live on these large properties. They start to build homes on these properties. They get people to build these homes. And the people who live on these properties then are given an allowance of somewhere between $50 to $100 a month. Okay. So they turn all of their possessions over to this group, and then they get given a pittance of an allowance. And then the women and the children, hey, Christina, and then the women and the children are treated like ownership, are treated like slaves. Even the men are treated like slaves, but the women and the children are treated like property, and the women are sold off like concubines. Seriously. Actually, the Scientologists do get that. They get about the same amount. They do. So it's very, very similar to Scientology. Sorry for my dog's loud bark. So this whole thing, I mean, I honestly feel like what these guys did was said, oh, that Scientology setup, that's pretty sweet. Let's just choose a different kind of biblical structure and do the same thing. Yeah. Hi, Steve. The chat's saying hi, Steve. Okay.
Religious group based out of Kokomo. Now, ISP says investigators spoke directly with Bryson's parents yesterday. However, the agreement to meet with detectives at the Peru post was made through a family attorney. The attorney told ISP Bryson's parents would no longer meet today. Now state police meet the criteria for that silver alert, which investigators say will help get the word out on a much larger scale.
It goes out statewide, of course. It goes through the, mass media, social media, other law enforcement agencies. So it's just another way to exponentially get this information out. And at this point, that's really what we're seeking. We're seeking information.
Now, state police tell us investigators will continue their attempts to communicate with Bryson's parents and their attorneys.
So while all that is still going on, Pastor Dowell, who's in charge of the whole church, puts up this video. He knows that the child's been abused. He knows that the child is still missing and that the Muirs have not been cooperating with the police. And he puts up this video. Now, I want you to not only pay attention to what he's saying and how he's saying it, but look at everything that's around him and the violence that he's communicating. The violence that he's communicating. He is, as you would imagine, ex-military.
Well, all right, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, citizens of YouTube. Pastor Dowell here. Well, I'm sure by now a lot of people have heard.
So this is one of the many reasons I'm bringing this to y'all's attention. He just called himself YouTube Pastor Dowell. Indeed, he does most of his pastoring, or a lot of his pastoring, on YouTube. He does many, many videos on YouTube. His channel has 200,000 subscribers. So he does a lot of recruiting. A lot of his members, a lot of his other pastors and his elders and his brothers, and they call themselves saints. They also have channels as well. So, Johnny, this man is Pastor Dowell. He's not the man who did the abuse. He's not the man who did the abuse of this child. He's the man who runs, he's in charge of the entire, yes, SBKD, yes. So this guy's in charge of the whole church. This guy here is Daniel Muir. He's the former Colts player who's the father of the kid who did it, okay? He's also it's unclear. People have called him a pastor in the church. Not sure if he's a pastor or not. He's clearly a highly regarded and esteemed member of the ministry. Okay, so let's continue.
Somewhat of what they believe to be what they think they understand concerning the Pastor Muir situation up there. And I can tell you, I'm going to do just like the world does. Whenever something is under investigation or whatever it is, I'm not going to do like a lot of people do, sit there and rush to judgment. The one thing I do know is that the news media has definitely done spun the narrative.
So very, very, very typical defense. Oh, this is all the news media. This is the news media spun the narrative about this kid showing up with a pummeled face, and the news media playing a 911 call from a worried grandmother saying that he was dropped off at her house with this beat up face. Okay. So the news media is spinning that narrative according to this guy. And that's always a typical defense. And nothing's been done yet. The kid hasn't been turned over yet. Yes, that's right. The news media doctored the photo. They've made it all up. They are persecuted. They're being persecuted for their beliefs, right? That's how it always ends up.
And I'm going to say this. I'm going to say this right here. It's amazing how it's something as soon as it hits the public out there, as soon as it hits the public, people automatically believe that whatever is being reported is true. Don't y'all know news media by now? Don't y'all know how this system works by now? You don't know how it works by now. Well, anyway, everybody allegedly in this country is supposed to be innocent until proven guilty. But the way it actually works is you're guilty and they treat you as if you're guilty. And here's the problem. The problem is, I wonder if the news media, because I'm at liberty to say this, because I know some of the things that's going on, but because there's legal counsel involved, I can't say too much because they don't talk to me because they're in another state. All right. So, but I wonder as soon as the truth of all this comes out, and I wonder when the news media found out that they falsely reported something, and everybody else they was swift to jump on the bandwagon of condemnation. I wonder if all these people are going to come out with the same vigor and tenacity and repentance. I wonder if they're going to make a video saying that I'm sorry and all this other stuff, because at least it looks like it's heading that way. It looks like it's heading that way. Because, man, I tell you, as soon as a story or news
it didn't head that way. It didn't head that way. They had to storm the compound to find the kid. And yes, they found him safe during prayers, but they had to storm the compound for that to happen. Hey, Micro Kimmy, good to see you.
Break or whatever it is, and you see things, and look, just because you see something, it don't mean that that's the way it is. And man, oh man, how many of you out there are really, truly learning about natural family members? I remember some time ago, before I even started the community.
Right. So it's the natural family members, you know. Now he's going to play on the fact that we all have natural family members that we don't get along with. You know, we don't, you know, we may have had a falling out with. Well, our natural family members are at fault when they see something that heinous. When they see an actual abused child and call the police, that's just a natural family member being riled up, right? And just wanting to cause problems.
Community, or even the Straightway Truth Ministry in itself. We was having a church in the home, and my natural family members, man, they hated it so much that they brought forth a false allegation. And my wife and I had to actually go get an attorney in order to beat back this wicked organization. And because, man, I mean, I'm like, who follows up on these outlandish charges like this without knowing the truth of what's happening? And man, I'm telling you, and so I beat DCS at least 2 or 3 times on false allegations.
See, so now he's telling on himself. You had to have DCS called. You had to have DCS called, and yep, he did have to have DCS called. And I'm seeing where, you know, I looked that up and I found it, and it's questionable whether they were actually beat. Okay, there is a long list of issues going on with this specific community. And the clips that I was showing you at the very beginning of the stream while we're waiting for people to come in, that was from an ex-community member, an ex-pastor named Pastor Rufus, who left Straightway Community a few years ago, when, you know, he had been trying to reason with Pastor Dowell, I guess, and say, hey, look, things aren't looking right. There was a couple of years ago, this guy that we're seeing on screen here was being called out for being an adulterer, and they are supposed to be a, you know, commandment following organization. So you're not supposed to commit adultery, but at a certain point they started to introduce the idea of polygamy. So everything started to get really mushy and confusing, and all kinds of jealousy started to spur up. So again, we start to see similarities with the Chad Daybell cult, where you start to hear about the leader of the congregation bringing in the idea of polygamy, of multiple wives. And later on, so I guess the idea of polygamy came in about 10 years ago or so, and a lot of members left because of that. And it came up very conveniently around the time when Pastor Dowell was being accused of adultery. So, you know, I believe that what happens in a lot of these organizations is, you know, they start under the premise of being a religious sect, a religious organization. One or more of the members decides that they're interested in another woman, and they decide, hey, I know, why don't we open up to the idea of having multiple wives? And then they start to try to instill that idea of multiple wives, and they decide to commit to that idea of multiple wives. And then many people leave the organization and many people stay in the organization. And that's what ended up here. And so now at this point, this man on the screen has 4 wives and several children by those wives. And other people in the church also have several wives. Okay. I'm not judging on the idea of having multiple wives. I'm judging on the idea of using religion as a premise to do that, when what you're really trying to do is just be a fucking sleazeball. Okay. That's what I'm saying. So it's absolute utter hypocrisy and a ruse to subordinate and oppress women and children and abuse them, outright abuse them. And this is clearly a violent and militant group. And I'm going to show you more to point that out.
To the point now that if somebody even makes some allegation, something like that, they don't even follow up no more. It's just sickening. It's sad, the type of world that we live in. But I want to wait to see if people have the same vigor, the tenacity, the drive, the determination to say I'm sorry, to run to repentance, to say I got it wrong, say I jumped the gun, and do all this after everything has come out. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. Because again, I don't know everything. Pastor Muir has been informed by his legal counsel about how to go about doing something. That's the reason why you don't hear nothing. And just like they do in the news media, we can't answer that question. We can't answer this question until an investigation has been done. That is fair enough, right? I mean, after all, I'm not the judge, the jury, or the executioner. And this is not something that's even in the jurisdiction and the colonies of Tennessee. What in the world is going on with y'all out there? It's amazing, isn't it? So anyway, I'm going to tell you this, that Straightway, we stand in solidarity with Pastor Muir and his family, and then we'll continue to keep praying for them. They have our 100% undying loyalty and support. The King is coming. Y'all have a good day. King.
Did you see how disingenuous that was? They have our undying loyalty and support. King is coming. See you later. They have our undying loyalty and support. I mean, he seems so incredibly disconnected and so like this is just like a but I find it incredibly interesting and insightful that a couple people in my chat would bring up marrying children. And that goes to show you what a pronounced pattern these cults have. Because guess what? That is absolutely a practice that this group has involved themselves in. In fact, here is video right here of Pastor Dowell auctioning off brides. Look at this right here. Look at this. I'm showing you this from somebody else who, look at these women standing up in front of the congregation while Pastor Dowell goes down the line and asks them, can you cook and can you clean? Look at this.
What's wrong with that? Surprise coming from Pastor Dowell and exploiting some.
Can you cook? Can you clean? Can you cook? Can you clean? Can you cook? Can you clean? What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? That's what's right. What's wrong is I'm graduating from college. I got a career. I make 6 figures. Huh? I'm gonna go out here and get all my degrees and everything, and then I'm gonna sit out here and work for a corporation where men can gawk at me and stalk over me over the water fountain and coffee pot and every damn thing else. sit there first night, probably end up getting pregnant. They fertile myrtles. Good field. You know why? Ain't no blood been shed in the field. The land is not defiled. The land is not defiled. So that's the reason why this land commands a price.
Did you hear that? Did you hear that? That is why this land commands a price. He is auctioning these ladies off. This is literally, yes, human trafficking on video from many years ago. And this is where I found this was on, there's an entirely other community on YouTube that calls out this preacher and this community. Okay. And the biggest creator in this community that calls it out is called, his channel is Ringo TV Reactions. And he's incredibly entertaining and he's really good at it. And these, and the other creators in the community shout him out and refer to him and quote him all the time. And this guy has 159,000 subscribers. He should have more. He does a really good job at it, and he gets a lot of attention from Pastor Dowell because he's obviously doing a good job calling him out. So for this guy, it's almost like it's about time, you know, that the police are finally paying attention to this cult and to this, but it's absolutely insane and crazy that it took the child getting beaten up and the grandmother to call the police to get that to happen. And it's a good question, Johnny. I don't know. And there's an entire, here, let me give you a little taste of this guy, Ringo TV, because what I'm trying to show people, because I know that nobody in my chat right now, at least I think that I can remember, are creators, but I know creators watch my channel. And I want creators to be paying attention to stuff like this, that there is far more to be paying attention to than, you know, the drama in the Sebastian Rogers case, you know, the drama in, you know, in various true crime cases, creator on creator drama. There are actual cults in existence that are actively harming many people in their communities across several regions in the United States. This church, this particular cult, has something like 13 chapters in 11 states or something like that. And there are many channels, and this is the biggest one, that have been calling them out for quite some time. So true crime really needs to be holding these guys to account. There's so much more going on. And it's an active thing. It's kind of like, you know, how I've been calling out fucking Rocket Man Lana Oriani for a long time. And, you know, finally people, even though she has a lot of subscribers now, people in the true crime community get that she's a fucking joke and a pariah. And eventually YouTube's going to pay attention to that from a platform perspective, and she'll be deplatformed. It'll be taken care of on its own. But there's a group in the real world who are actively trafficking and abusing and enslaving women and children, and no one's paying attention to it except a kind of a small community of YouTube creators led by this guy, Ringo TV. Okay.
You can find said information or information that you may need on P. Diddy Dowell's so-called Patreon.
And I love that this guy calls him P. Diddy Dowell. He calls him P. Diddy Dowell because this guy, P. Diddy Dowell, does everything. So what I want to do right at this moment is put this guy's YouTube channel in my chat. Okay. That's his channel. He has many, many videos. He does a lot of different stuff, not just this stuff. But he has many, many videos about this cult, about Straightway Ministries. Pastor Dowell and this guy go back and forth a lot. Okay. But here's something else I want to show you. This is just one example of this is an example on TikTok of Pastor Muir. Now, this is the guy who was arrested for abusing his kid, Bryson Muir, and for that kid going on. This is an example of what it looks like when this guy is preaching his word, okay?
You turn from your wicked ways, begin to obey. So you can say, you know what, let me just ponder something in my mind. Is y'all ever going to tell me to depart from me because you went too hard at doing what I said? But we do know that this very religion that tells you you can love him and not obey him. He does say, depart from me, ye worker of anomia, which means you are without Torah. You are without law. You are full of iniquity. You are unrighteous. You say you love him. You say he saved you. You say you do all this. Obey him. And you must turn to this perfect law of liberty. Why do you think we keep talking about this? Talking about these pastors that just twist and just tear out the scriptures. They wrest them only to their own destruction. Stop listening to these charlatans, these filthy lucre-chasing dogs who want to sit around and tell you Jesus came and fulfilled that, so you ain't got to do it no more. The book tells you by the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, and nowhere else in the book will you find anybody that does not keep the Torah and
So that is the kind of, craziness involved in this ministry. It's basically, you're seeing a bunch of over steroided, over testosterone, misogynistic men under the guise of religious pretext, just going nuts, and then collecting people's money for giving them a pittance of an allowance, saying that they're going to be protected, and then eventually when things go sour, they get treated like absolute dog crap. And in the meantime, the women and the children are treated like property and slaves. Okay. So this particular article I'm showing you right here is from Sports Illustrated. Sports Illustrated did a 3-part series. It's an extremely long article. I'm not going to read you the entire thing, but I'm going to show you a couple of parts. And the reason Sports Illustrated wrote about it is because 3 former major, very successful NFL players are part of this cult. And they themselves have actually purchased properties with their money and then turned those properties over to this nonprofit for this ministry. Okay. So, and after joining this group, their behavior has become more and more outlandish. And in fact, one of the former NFL players, Kabir, a few years ago, ended up in court and had to be tased in court. They had to taser him in court because he refused to sign divorce papers because he claimed that he was a sovereign citizen. All right. And finally, they had to restrain him. 10 people had to restrain him in court. And he finally signed the papers because the court was basically saying, I'm sorry, the sovereign citizen argument doesn't work with us. So that is right, Micro Kimmy. It is the epitome of religious abuse. And listen, just wait till you hear what I'm about to read you, okay? Oh, this is the wrong one. I wanted to... I wanted to read a different version. This is part 3. There was another, the other part that I wanted to show you that talked about this harrowing story of these girls. Where is it? Well, while I'm looking for that, I'm going to also show you the messages that the former let's see. Yeah. So former Pastor Rufus has been going online a lot very recently to call out the ministry because he's been pretty upset about all of this. And a lot of what he's been saying has been very powerful and very revealing and shocking. And this, if I'm picking out the right one, this is one rant that he went on very recently. Hold on.
In all of those communities. But guess what they're going to do when they get up in there? Take all the children. That's what the government and DCS do. They're not going to care if you got proof of birth certificate, social security card. It don't. And you know, a lot of you, your children don't even have birth certificate, social security cards. You can't even prove.
So that's one of the troubling things. So this guy's basically saying, hey, you guys are in danger, but he's saying you're in danger for a different reason. He's saying you're in danger because now you're on the radar of the feds. And a lot of your people don't even have documentation. And that's because, you know, this group has been around for many years, for like 20 years, maybe longer. And a lot of them have children without giving, without documenting them. They just give birth to them and they don't document them. And, you know, I don't know if you remember, there was a time when the government started raiding the LDS church like compounds, and the government has learned a lot since they did that. There was this one raid that they did that was absolutely horrible and traumatizing, and I think the government has learned a lot since they did that, because they took like something like 100 children away at once, and it was horrible. And they've learned a lot since that time, but the bottom line is that these children are being abused as part of this, you know, religious sect, and now they're on the radar of the government. And there's more that this guy says further on in this rant that I think is important. So also, while I'm looking for the right part of the Sports Illustrated story.
They're your children. You think you're getting them back? You think you're getting them back? I'm doing this video actually because I care. Actually because I care. Y'all will find out. I actually told some people that's still with Straightway, warned them, man, get them children out of there, man. Get them women and children out of there. Because you don't know when they coming. You don't know when they coming. And y'all know when the feds come, y'all tell me which cases the feds have lost. So if you in Wisconsin, if you in Indiana, if you in Kentucky and all the Kentuckys, if you in Tennessee, all the Tennessees, if you in Alabama, all the Alabamas, if you in Missouri, if you in Arkansas, if you in Texas, if you in Ohio, if you in Georgia, the places there, if you in South Carolina, I would report it immediately. Life going to be affected because of the sins of this king. Now, I've been telling you, come out of her, and I've been telling you, save yourself. I'm about done warning. I told you the storm is at the gate, but I ain't got no authority. I ain't got no power. I ain't anointed at all. I don't know y'all. I don't know nothing about y'all. I don't know nothing about y'all. I'm telling you all right now, that storm about to turn into a tornado.
So that's Pastor Rufus, a former pastor who left, who's saying the storm is coming. That not only is the storm is coming, it's turning into I just kicked coffee all over myself. It's turning into a tornado. So that's another reason I think people need to pay attention to this, because I think he's right. It's not just the tornado is not what we just saw with this kid going missing. The tornado is that this is just the beginning. That kid going missing was just a surfacing of a much, 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 much bigger issue going on. Now, I found what I was looking for. This is the first part of the Sports Illustrated story. And you just have to hear the first part of the story because it's harrowing. Okay. Listen to this. Two sisters pace along the grassy bank of a small creek. This is from 2020. Okay. And by the way, trigger warning on this. All right. Two sisters pace along the grassy bank of a small creek. They're middle school age, if they went to school, dressed in long skirts and scarves that cover their heads. The younger sister looks up at the highway running above her head and watches the cars pass. She tries to work up the courage to run up onto the road, stop a car, and beg someone to take them somewhere and take them anywhere else. Her back is bruised from recent beating. Her older sister is in worse shape. Her hair has been falling out in clumps, and her forearms are covered with the scars of several unaliving attempts. While they have every intention to run away from the religious compound they've grown up on, the fear of leaving is even more stifling than the fear of staying. Now they sit frozen beneath the highway, the crescendo of what has become their routine. Sneak into the barn, pick up the crickets up out of the peanut butter barrel, and fill the jar so they'll have something to eat once they make it off the land. Follow the creek a couple miles to the overpass until the overwhelming dread of what might happen to the rest of their family turns them around again. So then it talks a little bit more about the Truth Ministry. Details shared by those who lived on the grounds compound paint a bleak picture for more vulnerable members of the ministry. Numerous former members tell of an existence ruled by an unbending adherence to the Old Testament, under the watch of a controlling leader who limits members' interactions with the outside world. There are allegations of mistreatment of women and children, lack of access to proper health care, animosity toward the queer community, and at least 2 instances of aggressive recruitment of teenagers against the wishes of their families, all while onerous financial demands make it difficult for anyone to leave. And then it goes on to say, the younger sister, who we'll refer to as Esther, a pseudonym, says she and her older sister were sexually abused at Stairway and by the same man. It was her mom's husband, not Esther or her sister's biological father, but the man that her mother was set up with when she moved to Stairway. So there are several arranged marriages, and that happened also in the Chad and Lori Daybell situation. People started to go into the cult, and they were leaving their families, and they were going into these marriages that were arranged by Charles and Lori. Think about Melanie Pulowski, who left her husband, Brandon, and then Brandon, there was an assassination attempt on Brandon, okay? And then think about Zulema and Alex Cox, all right? So so this is a really, really interesting story. I'm going to put a link to this story in the chat so you can continue to read it. But all this to say that there is a very, 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 very deep and troubling past with this ministry and with this pastor. It's a huge amount of it is on YouTube. It's been reported by mainstream media. It's been reported by, the media that covers sports. And I just wish that, I know that it's not, there is some drama involved, but it's not the kind of drama that, goes back and forth with, being all the creators being able to slander each other. So, and nothing's been done for years and years. And the only way that it comes to a head is when a child is actually battered and bruised, and when a dear grandmother steps up to do something, So there's a lot to this story, a lot to pay attention to. There are several YouTube channels. Ringo TV is the one where I put in chat that has been doing the most work on it, has been cited the most. There's an entire community. There's all kinds of content to go over. I would love to see creators calling out this horrible church and this horrible community. I would love to see channels that are not shadow banned calling these guys out. True crime channels that are not shadow banned. So I do also want to let you guys know that I have decided to stream the Alec Baldwin Rust trial on Disorder in the Court. I'm going to do a trial prep stream on Monday. I've gone ahead and scheduled that live. Yay! I've put the channel name in my chat in case you don't know it. I'd love to see you all there. I really did miss having my daily visits with y'all while we were streaming trials. But I wouldn't have, I swear, I am so glad. I am so very glad I did not stream Karen Reed's trial. Because I saw like, I don't know, a quarter of the way through that thing that it was going to be a mistrial. Because if for no other reason than because it was so badly investigated. That investigation was so bad, and the prosecutor was such a boob. But I also did not like Karen Reed's demeanor in that courtroom at all. I thought her conduct was just very unlikable, but that doesn't mean she's guilty, right? So anyway, that's it. I'm just, and when you have an actual lawyer streamer like Emily D. Baker streaming it and giving she's definitely seemed to be on the defense side, especially since I think she's friends with Alan Jackson. But I agreed with a lot of her commentary, especially about the prosecutor, because he was mind numbing, and even to the layperson like me, you could tell he was just bumbling. And I'm the type of person that roots for people like Lolly to, I'm always rooting for people like him to, like, come on, you can do it. But he was just, anyway. So it was good to see you all. And I look forward to spending more time with you with Streaming Trials, and let me know if there's anything else you're interested in checkmating with me on. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to just be checkmating, and it doesn't have to be true crime. It could be pop culture. We're going to be just checkmating. I'm your checkmate. He did get lost in the weeds quickly. Definitely please remember to hit the thumbs up, just to at least remind the algorithm that I'm here, even if it's not going to promote me. Remind other people that have remembered me in the YouTube community to, maybe it'll remind me. Maybe it'll remind people to come see me. It's fine. I'm totally okay with it. As long as you guys are here, I'm totally cool with it. I seriously just want to influence other creators to look outside of. Yes, I know those drama numbers are amazing. That's great to get those drama numbers, but my God, it is so boring to keep listening to the same old shit about Sebastian Rogers, especially. It just doesn't get anybody anywhere, and it really just completely drags on his name, so. Yeah. That's interesting that you hadn't heard about the case until after he was found. That's really interesting. One thing I really want to do on this channel is point out how dumb criminals are. I want to do LOL content on criminals. So I've been trying to get my do FOIA requests, my own FOIA requests on like jail calls and stuff like that. But those requests take time, and sometimes they don't, you don't always get what you want. So once I start getting calls I'm requesting, if I ever get them, I'll start playing those. Because I think it was brilliant, the jail calls that Alex and Jen Bendy have been doing. It really just shows how dumb and weird. Like, if we're going to be lolcowing on people, it might as well be the actual convicted criminals, right? And by the way, oh, okay, interesting, Micro Kimmy. And by the way, Lana Oriani, Rocket Man, is a convicted criminal, so she's a little criminal. Anyway, all right, you guys, that's it for today. I will see you soon. And thank you very much for being here. Bye. Have a great rest of your day.